Today I'm digging into my craft stash using dollar store and thrifted items. Let's see what we come up with. Welcome to the Chic Show. This is the Craft Your Stash playlist hosted by Crafting My Best Life with Lisa and co-hosted by Country Lily Decor. Their channels and the playlist are in the description box below. I have a stash of cutting boards that I have thrifted, and I'm going to be using one of these along with some air dry clay and IOD's trimmings for mold. I'm going to be placing this casting of this mold at the top of the cutting board. Once I got it positioned like I wanted it, I flipped it over and then I used my craft knife to gently cut around the edges. And I'm not pressing down on the cutting board, so it's not flattening out my mold at all. I'll just set aside that extra clay because I'm going to need that in just a minute. Now I'll place that casting back onto my cutting board, and then I used that extra clay to cast another mold with the same trimmings for mold, and I'm just trying to figure out where it would fit best at the top. So I'm turning it around until I find the best fit, and then I'm going to cut around it again, removing that excess clay, and then the little cracks in between, I will just roll up a little bit of clay and fill in those spots. Once I'm ready, I'm going to take some of this Gorilla Glue and I'm going to glue my molds down to the cutting board. This is the time to kind of go around it and make sure that all those edges are nice and smooth. And once that is done, I can add a little bit more clay to those cracks in between the two different sections. And I'm using just my finger dipped in a little bit of water to smooth out those edges. I painted the entire piece with Debbie's Design Diary DIY paint in Apothecary, and then I used a piece of the IOD Floral Anthology rub-on transfer for the top. So I've cut this to fit. This is just a scrap that I had, and I cut it to fit, and I'm going to do my best to fit it as close to that mold casting as I can. Once that has been completely rubbed down, I went back with my little craft knife and just cut away any excess that was at the top, and then made sure those areas were rubbed down as well. I did have a couple of gaps that I wanted to fill in, so I just used the rest of that transfer and filled those in. When you use a rub-on transfer, you do want to burnish it down into your surface really well. So the backing paper is really a good way to do this. I also like to gently sand over the top of mine. It tends to kind of take away that halo around the sides and it helps it to look more like it's always been a part of the piece. Now I'm going to dip into my dollar store stash. I'm going to give this Dollar Tree frame, this Dollar General ornament, and this little cross charm an upgrade. Again, I'm using that trimmings for mold, and I'm going to be covering the wings with this mold. It fits pretty well except for that one little spot over to the right, and I'm going to fix that with some excess clay. Again, I flipped it over and cut away the extra clay with my craft knife. Now I can see the space where I need to fill in, and I can use this excess clay to cut out just the right spot for this. I'm going to work with that clay just a little bit and fill in those gaps with a little extra clay and make that little flower fit into that open gap. I use Titebond Quick and Thick to glue the mold onto the angel wings. While that dries a little bit, I'm going to disassemble the frame and use some modeling paste to give the inside of the frame some texture. I'm mixing together the modeling paste and a little bit of Waverly chalk paint and plaster, and I'm just going to spread this like icing onto this backing. I want lots of peaks and valleys around the sides of this backing piece. The center is where I'm going to glue my wings, so I'm not going to do quite as much in that area. I'm going to give my wings a coat of the Waverly chalk paint and plaster. And the frame will also get a coat of plaster chalk paint. So I applied the chalk paint. I went back with the baby wipe and I wiped away what was on top. I wanted that white paint to stay down in those nooks and crannies. Now we'll deal with this little charm. I removed the hook at the top and I'm using some gold rub and buff, and I'm just going to brush this on to the cross so that it is completely gold. The angel wings will also get some gold paint. This is an acrylic gold paint. I'm not really trying to get down into those nooks and crannies as much. I am just kind of dabbing on the top gently so that I don't imprint the angel wings. Now I'm going back and I'm going to wipe away some of that gold paint so that we do have some of that white showing through. And my little cross will go into the center of my angel wings. But before I attach that, we're going to go back to that textured backing piece that we made, and I'm going to go over that with some gold rub and buff just to bring out the texture. I'll do one more dry fit just to make sure that everything fits together nicely. I decided my angel wings needed a little bit more gold rub and buff, so I'm just using my finger to go over the surface areas to bring out more of those details. To be sure I get these glued into the right spot, I went ahead and added in my backing piece, and then I will glue the angel wings to the center of the frame. I'm going to add a little bit of this Gorilla Glue to the center of the wings and glue on my cross, and then we'll move on to adding those angel wings to the center of the frame. Because of the weight of these wings, I will set this aside to dry for several hours. I love a thrifted pitcher, and this one's been sitting in my stash for a while, and it has the perfect little spot on either side for a rub-on transfer. So this one is from The Lover of Flowers by IOD, and I'm just going to rub that transfer on to one side, and then I will add another one to the other side. Now I'll flip it over and add this other flower, and then I have two different looks for this cute little pitcher. I did go over these framed areas and the transfer with some DIY's Big Top. This cute yellow picture adds just a pop of color in my kitchen. Be sure and check out our host channels in the description box along with the playlist. I hope you have enjoyed this Craft Your Stash video. If you do, give me a thumbs up, and if you want to watch another video, here's one right here. Thanks so much for watching. Remember to share the chic. Bye now.